Good evening. Welcome to the Oceanside Planning Commission
Recording
meeting
in
for
progress.
April 24th. If I could get everybody to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner Simons, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. City Planner, can you do the roll call, please?
Certainly. Chairman Rosales.
Present.
Vice Chair Morrissey.
Here.
Commissioner Balma.
Present.
Commissioner Anthony.
Present.
Commissioner Dodds.
Present.
Commissioner Simons.
Here.
And Commissioner Malik.
Present.
Let the record show that all planning commissioners are present and we have a quorum.
Thank you. And a warm welcome to our newest commissioner, Commissioner Anthony. Welcome. First meeting this evening. Communications on matters not on the agenda. Do we have any slips to speak?
Chairman Rosales, yes, we have Diane Nygaard requested to speak, public comment.
Great. Come on forward, Diane.
Evening, Chair and Commissioners. Diane Nygaard, representing Serve Calavera. At your last meeting, I submitted comments claiming that our comment letter on Madera Melrose had not been responded to, and that was not true. I made a careless mistake. I looked at the notice of prep comments instead of the DER comments, and so I misspoke. So I'm here tonight to apologize to you and to staff for that error.
Diane, can I interrupt you? I don't know if your mic is working. I feel like we hear your voice, but not like a mic voice.
Should I just talk louder?
Go right ahead.
So
Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
that's okay. I'm assuming you heard what I started with. But I also wanted to thank you for adding the condition to that project to improve connectivity to the Sprinter station. Because projects like this in the smart growth corridor right across the street from the Sprinter station, they need to optimize the use of alternative transportation. And good connectivity to that station is a key part of that. And you recognize that and you did something about it. So thank you. But it's also important to get parking right with these projects. AB 2097, new law, affects all local government, says that cities can no longer establish minimum parking requirements for projects like that by transit centers. But Oceanside still does have a minimum parking. And that Melrose project greatly exceeded the minimum. We need to work towards right sizing of parking. It's time to stop having developers spend a lot of money to meet parking requirements, and then on the other hand, they reduce the open space that are benefits to the residents. We talk about paving paradise. But we also need to put those resources, instead of putting them in parking and supporting cars, those resources need to go into alternative transportation, pedestrian, bicycle, transit. That would help reduce traffic and really benefit the entire community. Requiring transportation demand management, TDM plans for all projects in these smart growth corridors is essential to really make them work the way they were planned. And so again, my apologies for the comment letter last time, and thank you for improving Sprinter access and for asking for the housing report you're going to hear later tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Any other slips?
No, we don't have any slips.
Great, thank you. So we'll go to next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from our last meeting, April 10th. Any discussion? If not, I'll ask for a motion.
I'll motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Dodds. Second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Malik. Let's go ahead and vote.
Chair Rosales, let the record show that the motion passes unanimously. I may want to add that Commissioner Anthony voted on that. That's maybe something he should have abstained on because he wasn't present at that meeting.
True. We'll make that correction to the record. Thank you. All right, moving on. Consent calendar. We don't have anything agendized tonight, and we do not have anything under transportation items. So we'll go to our public hearings. We do have 2 items tonight. The first is consideration of a development plan and a conditional use permit to allow construction of a new fast food restaurant, Popeyes, at 3503 Cannon Road. I'll start with disclosures. Got a staff report and some drawings to go along with that. Vice Chair Morrissey?
I've worked with this developer in the past, so I'm going to recuse myself tonight.
Thank you. We'll call you back when we have finished. Commissioner Dodds?
I've read the staff report and went by the area.
Thank you. Commissioner Obama?
I also have the same disclosures, staff report, and drive-by.
Thank you. Commissioner Simons?
Staff report.
Commissioner Malik?
Staff report. I'm familiar with the area.
And Commissioner Anthony?
Staff report.
Good evening, Delaney. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Go ahead and
Good evening, Chair and
present.
Commissioners. I'm Delaney Carmen with the Planning Division, and I'm here to present Agenda Item 4, Development Plan 2113. The project application is a request for a development plan to allow the construction of a new 2169 square foot Popeyes restaurant building within an existing shopping center and a conditional use permit to allow for drive-through use in conjunction with the proposed restaurant. The site is located on an undeveloped building pad in the Palm Tree Plaza Shopping Center within the Ocean Hills planning area. The project site is designated general commercial by the city's general plan and the city's zoning ordinance with a Palm Tree Plaza plan block development overlay. The shopping center is bordered by residential uses to the south and west, Lake Park to the north, and an assisted living facility to the east. The proposed restaurant would be situated within the southwestern area of the existing Palm Tree Plaza Shopping Center on a standalone building pad. Associated site improvements would include new landscaping, 5 new parking spaces, and 12 queuing spaces in the drive-through facility. Ingress and egress to and from the drive-through would be provided through an existing drive aisle within the shopping center. The Popeyes restaurant would be constructed at a maximum height of 24 feet, measured from the finished floor, and would include a contemporary architectural design complemented by brick facades and orange and teal accents. In terms of zoning ordinance compliance, the project complies with all applicable development standards for the CG district. Staff received 1 comment letter for the project with parking concerns for the shopping center. As detailed in the local transportation study attached to the project and shopping center comply with the parking requirements for the shared lot. As detailed in the staff report, staff has evaluated the project and finds it consistent with the general plan, zoning ordinance, and plan block development overlay. The project's proposed use complements the existing mix of uses in the shopping center and would provide additional convenient food service options to shopping center patrons and the neighborhood. The project complies with development standards of the CG zoning district, and the proposed use is consistent with the underlying goals of the plan block development overlay, including commercial competitiveness, compatibility with adjacent uses, and high potential revenue. Therefore, staff recommends the Planning Commission confirms issuance of a Class 3 categorical exemption per SEQA Article 19, Section 15332, infill development projects, and approves Development Plan D2113 and Conditional Use Permit CUP 2115 by adopting Planning Commission Resolution Number 2023-P11 with findings and conditions of approval attached herein. This concludes staff's presentation. The applicant will not be presenting, but they are here, and we are both available to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Carmen? Go ahead, Commissioner Obama.
Yeah, I have a question because I was curious to see this huge local transportation study that was done for Popeyes within an existing shopping center that this was the last building. Why was that requested of them? Is that something they had to do, or is that just something they did on their own?
Commissioner Baum, I can answer that question for you. So pursuant to our local VMT and level of service, guidelines for requiring studies, the project exceeds the threshold for which a project consistent with the general plan to require a local transportation study. So that's why there was one prepared for this project.
So they were going to push the envelope? You said exceeds the,
So the threshold for projects that exceed, the threshold is 500 trips to require a local transportation study. I'm not sure the ADT for this project, but it's more than 500. Delaney maybe can confirm what the ADT is. But it exceeds the threshold that requires a study.
so it's a normal requirement for any construction then that would come through? Okay.
With respect to level of service, it doesn't exceed the requirement for VMT. I don't believe there was a VMT analysis prepared for this project.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Delaney. I don't see any other questions. Any questions by the commissioners for the applicant? Okay, I don't see anything. This is a public hearing, so we'll go to the public. Any slips on this item?
Chairman Rosales, no, we do not have any slips for item number 4.
Great, thank you. Doesn't mean that you can't come up forward to the dais if you'd like to speak on this item. Don't see a rush to the dais, so we will close the public hearing and bring it back for discussion to the commissioners. Don't see my monitor lit up, so if you're ready and willing, you want to go to a motion, I'll entertain that.
All right, I guess I will take a stab. I would like to make a motion that we approve the consideration of development plan D210013 and conditional use permit, CUP 210015, to allow the construction and operation of a new Popeyes fast food restaurant and drive-through service.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Obama to approve as proposed. A second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Malik. Any further discussion? Don't see any, so let's go ahead and vote.
Chair Rosales, let the record show that the motion passes 5-0. There was a missing vote, I think, perhaps.
Do we need a revote?
Sure.
Yeah,
That would
let's
be
do a
best. Chair Rosales, let the record show that the motion passes unanimously 6-0.
Great, thank you. I will excuse myself for a second and go get Mr. Morrissey, unless somebody would like to do that. Okay, thank you, Barbara. All right, then we'll open the next item on the agenda, item 5. Item 5 is consideration of development plan, and 9, separate conditional use permits to allow construction of a development project at El Corazon. It's called the El Corazon OBC project. Applicant is Sudbury Development. I'll start with disclosures. Very familiar with the site. I live fairly close by, go there all the time. Received a staff report and a number of drawings to go along with the development application, and received a number of emails. And then I see on our, next to our seat here, we also have some additional printouts from staff this evening. Vice Chair Morrissey? Your disclosure? Same. Commissioner Dons, go ahead.
Staff report and toured the site.
Thank you. Commissioner Obama?
The same, and I've been on this project probably since the inception, so I've kind of a lot of history.
Yeah. Commissioner Anthony?
Staff report, and I have toured the site as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Malik?
Same.
And Commissioner Simons?
Same.
Thank you. Go ahead, Sergio.
So thank you, Chairman Rosales, members of the Planning Commission. Prior to getting into the specifics of the OBC project, we wanted to provide a little background for the Planning Commission and members of the public on the history of El Corazon, the lengthy background here. So it's important to understand that in the context of considering this project tonight. So back in 1994, the city acquired the 465 acres we now know as El Corazon. The site had previously been utilized as an aggregate mine by the Silica Sand Mining Company. After a long and comprehensive process, the City Council adopted the El Corazon specific plan and certified the EIR for the project in 2009. The El Corazon specific plan does serve as the regulatory document for the 465 acres in terms of permissible land uses and development standards. Also in 2009, the Senior Center opened. In 2016, the City Council approved a specific plan amendment that allowed the transfer of non-residential square footages between the village commercial planning areas to the Oceanside Boulevard commercial areas. There we go. So there was allowable transfer of square footages of non-residential uses between the two planning areas within the specific plan. That specific plan also allowed for horizontal mixed use, the previously only allowed vertical mixed use, and provided for additional design guidelines with respect to the location of mixed-use buildings and parking in proximity to internal streets. In December of 2016, the City Council also approved another specific plan amendment that allowed the relocation of the El Corazon Aquatics Center from this civic services planning area over to where it presently exists today. In November 2017, the City Council approved another specific plan to allow 38 additional residential units for a total of 338 residential units within El Corazon, and a tentative map and development plan for the 70-unit and 3,000 square foot horizontal mixed-use project that's known today. It's been developed and known today as Ventana. It's generally located here off of Hugh LaBounty Drive in Rancho del Oro. In December of 2019, the City Council approved another specific plan amendment that allows arenas as a allowable use within the specific plan area and a tentative map to subdivide the property. The specific plan also shifted the alignment of AA Street to its current location, where it bisects the OBC. Previously, A Street went along the westerly perimeter of the OBC site. In February 2020, the City Council approved a development plan in CUP to allow a 137-room hotel here at this hotel designated site on the north side of Hugh LaBounty Drive. In February 2021, the Planning Commission approved an 8,000-seat arena and a 1,618-space joint-use parking lot at this parcel right here, and the parking lot's located here adjacent to Park Site 1. In April 2021, the Planning Commission approved the mixed-use project known as the Sudbury Mixed-Use Project, which consists of 268 apartment units and approximately 5,000 square feet of dedicated retail and commercial space. To date, Council has provided direction to pursue design of Park Site 1, and those efforts are currently ongoing. There is also an ongoing effort to design the Phase 2 trails within El Corazon. Staff would expect that the City Council will provide direction to pursue design and development of future park sites in the future. Today, you're going to be asked to consider a commercial and industrial project on the OBC portion of the El Corazon site. As can be noted from the chronology provided, the El Corazon specific plan is a living document that has been updated over time. We'd expect further refinements to the specific plan in the future to accommodate future park development at the site and to contemplate additional civic uses that may have not been contemplated at the time the specific plan was created. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Shannon Vitale, Senior Planner in our office and Project Manager for the OBC project. Thanks.
Good evening, Chair Rosales, Planning Commissioners. Shannon Vitale, Senior Planner in the Development Services Department. I'm here this evening to discuss Agenda Item Number 5, the Oceanside Boulevard Commercial, or OBC project. The project before you today includes the area designated as OBC, which is shown in red on this slide. The project site is currently undeveloped and considered disturbed due to past silica mining operations. Surrounding land uses include industrial land uses to the south, commercial land uses to the east, the Senior Center, Aquatic Center, and mixed-use development to the north, and future habitat and parkland to the west. The OBC project includes a development plan and 9 conditional use permits. The development plan is to allow the construction of a 533,700 square foot development project comprised of 3 separate research and development facilities totaling 497,900 square feet and 35,800 square feet of commercial space. The commercial space will include retail sales, including 4 drive-through restaurants, a gas station with a convenience store and car wash. Pursuant to the El-Cor zone-specific plan and the zoning ordinance, conditional use permits are required for the research and development facilities, including the on-site storage and handling of hazardous materials. With one of the research and development facilities, a CUP is also required for the gas station, convenience store and car wash, and for the 4 drive-through restaurants. This slide shows the overall site layout of the OBC project. The research and development facilities are shown in orange, purple, and yellow, with the commercial space shown in light blue. Building A, which is shown in orange, will be occupied by a pharmaceutical research and development facility. Buildings B and C are spec buildings built for future research and development. The commercial buildings, which are located at the southeast portion of the site, contain the gas station, car wash, convenience store, the drive-through restaurants, and flexible commercial space. Consistent with the design guidelines in the El-Cor zone-specific plan, the buildings are oriented towards the street and provide a pedestrian court with outdoor seating areas. 1,647 parking spaces are distributed throughout the site, with each research and development facility having its own parking lot, and there will be a shared parking available for the commercial buildings. Due to its proximity to the commercial area, there will be a shared parking agreement between Building C, which is shown in yellow, and the commercial site. New traffic signals would be installed at the intersection of Oceanside Boulevard and Village Commercial Drive, and at the intersection of Village Commercial Drive and what's labeled here as Private Drive. As part of the purchase and sale agreement between the city and the developer, there was an agreed-upon exhibit showing the 2 acceptable soil disposal locations. This exhibit is shown on the right. To better understand where these 2 disposal sites are located in relationship to development within El-Cor zone, staff recreated the disposal locations to the image on the left. Again, that's not a formal drawing, it's just to help better understand that rough drawing to the right. But again, it shows the 2 locations. Site 1, which is just west of the OBC site, and then Site 2 is north of where the SoCal soccer fields are located. The project has been conditioned to provide a detailed grading plan illustrating where the exported soil shall be located. Approval of the precise grading plan by the city engineer is required prior to the start of work on the project. Proposed disposal sites must also comply with the terms of the purchase and sale agreement. This slide illustrates the landscaping that's proposed for the project. As you can see here, there's extensive landscaping along the project perimeter. Consistent with the El-Cor zone-specific plan, Village Commercial Drive will have a landscape median ranging from 11 feet to 21 feet, and there will also have parkways. Trees, including the Tipawana Tipu, Gold Medallion, Marina Strawberry, and Jacaranda, will be planted throughout the median, parkways, parking lot, and other landscaped areas to be consistent with the El-Cor zone-specific. Pursuant to the El-Cor zone-specific plan, pedestrian circulation is provided throughout the project site. New bike lanes and sidewalks are designed in accordance with the specific plan and the approved tentative map. The green colors, sorry, it's hard to see on this slide, but you can see the green outline that illustrates the pedestrian paths connecting the different components of the project. The pink lines illustrate the bike lanes. They're proposed from Oceanside Boulevard up Village Commercial Drive, and then also connecting Rancho del Oro Drive and South El-Cor Zone Drive. There's also a new bus stop that will be proposed along Rancho del Oro Drive. The slides here provide renderings of the proposed development. The commercial buildings will combine Irving Gill-style design elements with mission-style roof lines and Spanish tile. The buildings include decorative tower features and extend to a maximum height of 40 feet, 6 inches. This slide shows the proposed drive-through restaurants, which are located on the southeast portion of the site. Pursuant to the El-Cor zone-specific plan, the buildings are well articulated and utilize 365-degree architecture. The research and development buildings are designed in a contemporary style that features glazed windows, metal accents, and horizontal siding. The buildings utilize a variety of materials to add visual interest. This rendering here shows building A, B, and C. Pursuant to the Elkhorn Zone Specific Plan, commercial R&D facilities are permitted in the OBC district with the approval of a CUP. The proposed R&D facilities will include a manufacturing and warehouse and distribution component, and therefore are defined as industry, research, and development. Although this use classification is not listed in the allowable uses table in the Elkhorn Zone Specific Plan, there is a provision in the specific plan that allows the city planner to determine that a proposed use is similar and compatible to a listed use and therefore may be allowed. The applicable language from the specific plan is included on this text box to the right of the slide. The city planner reviewed the materials for the proposed R&D facilities and determined the use is similar to permitted uses in the OBC district and will not have a greater intensity than the limited industry and custom industry land uses which are allowed in the OBC district. A CUP is also required for the operations associated with the pharmaceutical tenant in Building A, since it includes the manufacture, handling, and storage of hazardous materials in excess of 120 gallons. The applicant has provided an environmental controls narrative that lists how the facility will operate in compliance with Cal-OSHA standards, and conditions of approval have been placed on the project to ensure all hazardous materials are stored and handled in accordance with the fire department and the environmental health regulations. Service stations and car washes are both allowed land uses in the OBC district with the approval of a CUP. The gas station will be located on Building Pad A and includes 12 fueling stations, a convenience store, and a car wash tunnel. Although drive-through restaurants are allowed in the specific plan, the zoning ordinance requires a CUP for drive-through service. Therefore, we have added CUPs for each of the 4 drive-through restaurants. As described in the staff report, staff reviewed the project for compliance with the general plan and the Elkhorn Zone Specific Plan. The OBC project is consistent with the goals and policies of the general plan related to balanced land uses and land use compatibility. The commercial component of the project provides additional retail and service options that are both resident and visitor serving. The R&D facilities provide jobs and significant tax revenue to the city. The proposed project is designed pursuant to the Elkhorn Zone Specific Plan and provides significant landscape buffers and well-articulated buildings that will visually enhance the project site and surrounding areas. The proposed project is compatible to existing land uses and will not create negative visual impacts to the surrounding area. Staff finds the project is consistent with the Elkhorn Zone Specific Plan because the specific plan identifies the OBC district as an area due to its topography that should provide uses that would serve the surrounding area. Retail sales and services, fast food restaurants, and industrial and office uses are all listed as appropriate land uses in the OBC district. These uses will help provide financial support for the development of public parkland. Additionally, as noted in the staff report, the total square footage of the OBC district is below the maximum square footage allowed for the OBC and BC districts. As part of the 2016 Elkhorn Zone Specific Plan Amendment, non-residential development square footage was allowed to be transferred between the VC districts and the OBC districts, allowing for a total of 580,000 square feet between the 2 districts. There is currently 8,000 square feet of non-residential development within the OBC and VC districts, leaving 572,000 square feet available. The proposed project at 533,700 square feet is below that threshold and therefore does not exceed the non-residential development potential for the OBC district. The project's also consistent with the development standards for the OBC district, including setbacks, lot coverage, height, landscaping, etc. These standards are included in the staff report in Table 3 and also on this slide. The project also complies with applicable provisions of the zoning ordinance as described in the staff report. The project was specifically reviewed for conformance with Section 3011 and 3026 of the zoning ordinance pertaining to service stations, car washes, and hazardous material storage. Additionally, the development plan and conditional use permits were reviewed in accordance with Articles 41 and 43 of the zoning ordinance. The required findings are provided in the resolution that was attached to the staff report. The project was reviewed for compliance with the city's climate action plan ordinance, including the renewable energy, EV parking, urban forestry, and transportation demand management, TDM. As shown in Table 4, the project complies with all 4 of the climate action plan ordinances. Pursuant to Section 3050 of the zoning ordinance, all new non-residential development that generates more than 50 daily employee trips must prepare and implement a TDM plan. The project has been conditioned to provide a TDM plan for each of the R&D facilities. If the commercial components of the project generate more than 50 daily employee trips, a TDM plan will also be required for the commercial component. Staff reviewed the project for conformance with the California Environmental Quality Act. In 2009, the final environmental impact report for the El Corazon specific plan was certified by City Council. The EIR assessed the environmental impacts associated with implementation of the specific plan and proposed mitigation measures to reduce significant impacts. In 2019, an addendum to the environmental impact report was approved by the City Council. The addendum analyzed potential new environmental impacts associated with the specific plan amendment that made adjustments to the various land uses within El Corazon. The addendum concluded that there were no new significant impacts that would require a subsequent EIR. A final environmental impact report consistency review and environmental checklist was submitted as part of the OBC project. This checklist concluded that the proposed OBC project would not result in an increase in environmental impacts that were not already identified in the final EIR or the EIR addendum. Therefore, no additional documentation is required pursuant to CEQA. It is important to note that all prior mitigation measures that were identified in both the 2009 EIR and the 2019 EIR addendum are still applicable and will remain in full force and effect for this project. This is reflected in condition of approval number 25. As explained in the staff report and the applicant's community outreach plan, the project complied with the city's enhanced notification program. A notice of application sign was placed on the property, and a notice was mailed out to all property owners within 1,500 feet and all tenants within 100 feet of the project site. Due to some confusion on the original notice of application, there was a subsequent notice of application mailed out to the project mailing list that helped clarify the proposed entitlements. In September, the applicant held a community outreach meeting at the El Corazon Senior Center. There were 12 people in attendance at this meeting. The applicant also discussed the project with the Friends of El Corazon and gave tours to them and other representatives. As of noon today, and actually as of 5:30, staff has received 22 comments on the project. 15 of those comments were already provided to you and were attached to the staff report, and the remaining comments were emailed to you this morning. There have been no comments since then. Issues raised in the public comment letters include concerns with the soil disposal location, increase in greenhouse gas emissions and traffic, the compatibility of the project to residential uses. There were comments that the project is not designed as a transit-oriented development and is not compatible with the Climate Action Plan or the El Corazon specific plan, that there was a lack of a comprehensive traffic demand management plan, and there were some questions with the CEQA determination. Following the posting of the staff report and the resolution, staff further analyzed the condition of approval number 233. This is a very lengthy condition, so rather than putting it on the slides, it's been distributed to all the planning commissioners. Staff is proposing amending the condition as it is currently worded to remove reference to the fair share calculation, including the average daily trips associated with the SoCal soccer fields, and refine the fair share contribution. Changes to this condition are indicated in strikeout underline, and as I mentioned, a copy should have been distributed to each of you. Additionally, beyond what was provided to you right before this meeting, staff is also recommending the following revision to the same condition 233, section B, section 2. It's regarding segments. So staff is recommending it to read as follows. The fair share calculation shall be approved and agreed upon by the city engineer. That was just a further condition. So in conclusion, staff finds that the proposed project is consistent with the general plan, the El Corazon specific plan, and the zoning ordinance, and therefore recommends the Planning Commission adopt Planning Commission Resolution number 2023-P09, approving the development plan, D2211, and the 9 conditional use permits. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions you may have. We also have the applicant team here. Do you have any questions for them? They do not have a presentation, but are available for questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Shannon. Any questions for Shannon? Jump right in.
So I was just wondering, like, I didn't look at the whole rest of the development so far at El Corazon, but I noticed that there's a signalized intersection at, like, when you first come into the project. Are there any other signalized intersections in the park besides that one?
Currently,
Yeah.
I'd have
Or
to-
proposed that will be built?
this project, there's 2 signalized intersections proposed.
Right.
One on Oceanside
Right.
Boulevard and the entrance, and then also what's called Private
Right.
Street. Those are the other 2.
But internally, is there any other ones besides that internal one, not the one on Oceanside Boulevard? Is there any other internal signalized intersections in the park?
Commissioner Balma and Commissioners, not as part of the OBC project, no.
I know on the OBC, but I'm just saying, like at the Front Wave Sports Arena, at the El Corazon Senior Center, at the Ventana, is there anything internal that there's a signalized intersection? I just was wondering. I didn't get a chance to look at that.
Commissioner Balma, Commissioners, no, there is not.
Oh.
I'm looking at our city traffic engineer.
Okay. So one of my curious questions was, why not just do another roundabout or something else that's, because it's a park kind of feeling. Anyway, that was one of my questions to whoever wants to answer that. I know that there's a lot of topography there, and it might be because of that, but that was one of the things I was asking about.
So Commissioners, I will defer to our city traffic engineer to
Okay.
answer that question.
Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Chair and fellow commissioners. My name's Teal. I'm the city traffic engineer. There is no traffic signals being proposed inside El Corazon, just on Oceanside Boulevard at Village Commercial Drive. And then there's the 2 existing ones at Senior Center and Rancho del Oro, and Dr. Lamarte Drive in Rancho del Oro. Everything internal will be either always stops and 2 roundabouts.
Right. So then why was this one signalized?
The one on Oceanside Boulevard and Village Commercial Drive.
The one at, okay, now I forget my map.
You're right.
There's one
My
that,
apologies. No, you're right.
Just
It
that
was
one.
F Street and
Yeah.
F Street
you.
and Village Commercial Drive.
thank you.
Sorry, huge apologies. That one is being signalized because it did not meet signal warrants, but there was a corner site visibility issue, and with the amount of traffic that was going to be going through there between the 2 developments, it was the best solution. And also there was that topography
Yeah.
perspective also to be
Right.
looking at.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Apologize for the confusion.
Thank you. I had a question for either Shannon or Sergio. We received a lot of emails and feedback on the issue of the soil being moved around on the site. I thank you for covering it, but can you expand a little bit on what's being proposed or the contemplation? Because I think what I read, if I got it correctly, was it's being moved. Could it be managed as opposed to just placing it somewhere? And you identified 2 sites on location. Can you maybe expand? I want to try to get out ahead of, I think, some of the comments that I think we're going to hear.
So Chair Rosales, I will defer to the city engineer as far as where that soil will be exported. As far as what we've reviewed so far in condition of the project, there is a condition stating that any exported soil must be in accordance with that purchase and sale agreement, which identifies the 2 locations that I showed on the slide. And there's also language that the precise grading plan needs to be submitted and approved by the city engineer prior to any type of movement on the project. But I'll let our city engineer expand on that.
Hi, good evening, Honorable Chair and Commissioners. Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, just if you would expand on the Shannon just touched on it again, and she did in her presentation, the condition of moving the soil, and she identified a couple of locations. I think the comments we're going to hear and some of the things I read was, along the lines of, if it's going to be moved, can it be moved in a manner where it's managed in those 2 new locations for further development, or is it just going to be placed there? And so, again, if you could just expand, there might be some questions from the audience that even goes beyond that, my description. Go ahead.
Sure, thank you for the question. So the idea is to move it once. So in order to move it, we're working in conjunction with the applicant to prepare site-specific disposal sites for the dirt to be moved. But we're only going to move it once. So we have to think about this, do it logically, do it conscientiously to make sure that we're not moving it 5, 6, 7 times like so many people are afraid. One of the big issues is the soil itself is not very good out there. As we all know, it's just back clay. At the end of the day, not suitable for building upon. So the idea is to be mindful about it.
Hang on a second. Go ahead and light yourself up because I've got a few in front of you. Okay, that's good enough for me as a start, but I'm going to kick it over to some of the others. Commissioner Simons, go ahead.
Since you're right there, I'll ask you this. In one of the, in the resolution, the condition 188, it talks about the opportunistic beach fill permit. I was wondering, well, since you knew the quality of the soil there, is that even something that would be an option that you're looking at? I mean, I just happen to notice it in the conditions, so.
Part of our opportunistic beach sand permit requires several different tests and approvals by the Army Corps of Engineers as well as the Coastal Commission to determine whether or not the dirt meets the sand deposition. So there's a certain level that has, so much sand has to pass through it, and it has to be heavy enough to stay on the beach. Last thing we want to do is deposit sand out there only to have it float away or wash away into the beach itself and continue to build up the reserves out in the ocean. So this is a lengthy process. It does take several weeks to get the appropriate tests moving forward, and that is one of the things that the applicant will have to provide through our coastal administrator, our geotechnical reviewer, as well as myself.
So if it were to pass all those tests, is it more favorable to do that with it or to move it to those two areas?
Most certainly, if we can use it on the beach, we will certainly use it on the beach, but we do have a time frame in which we're allowed to place things on the beach. So if it's outside of the area, it will have to be stockpiled to a time where we're allowed to get out there and actually put the sand on the beach.
Okay, sounds good. I had a question about process relative, not relative to, it was more traffic. So we've.
Can I interrupt you real quick? 'Cause, Commissioner Dodds, do you have a question related to the soil condition, a separate question? Yes. Okay, I think you might have had a question about, I'm going to stay with the soil for a minute, and then we'll come back to, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, does the city have to do soils engineering analysis and topography before it can dictate where the export can be moved? Like you say, we only want to do it one time. And if you could answer that question, because my understanding is that that has to be done before we can say, yeah, the soil is good enough to move here or there. And that hasn't been done by the city yet, is what I was told. Is that true?
Well, part of it would be the applicant's responsibility to provide a geotechnical report for review. That is in the process of being done. Jim, is that correct?
So that is the city's responsibility?
No, that's the applicant's responsibility. It's the applicant's responsibility. We review it. Also, as part of the development process that's been in place now for a few years, is we have to go through the testing process in certain areas.
Okay. Is that being done right now by the applicant then?
I'm not sure. Jim says yes, it's being currently performed.
So that will be done before we embark on this project, so we're moving the dirt once?
Before we issue a permit, absolutely. And that's part of the parcel of the process. So whether it's mass grading or final grading, we have to approve the plans. I have to approve the plans at the end of the day to move forward with anything.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I think we're going to shift our questioning here, just for the moment anyway. I'm going to go back to Commissioner Simons, and then Commissioner Dodds, I'll come over to you.
Okay, I'm back on traffic. So for my question it was process related, because I know we have a lot of questions with respect to the traffic demand management. Can you go back and review kind of the big picture of the traffic demand management? I think I read and I saw some of the comments that talked about the city will go back and create an overarching traffic demand management plan once all of these are done. So I'd like to have you speak to that process. How are you going to do that? And then relative to this specific project, it's conditioned on having traffic demand management plans for the individual occupants How is that going to work? Which occupants require traffic demand management? And there are some occupants that we know, so do we have traffic demand management plans for those? So it's like kind of a multi-traffic demand management question, but it's a process thing, because I know we're going to hear the comments later. Thanks.
Sure. So, Planning Commissioners, there is a condition currently for the project for pursuant to the city zoning ordinance requirement for traffic demand management. That's for any non-residential use that triggers more than 50 daily employee trips. So the 3 R&D facilities, we anticipate they would meet that threshold. So therefore, they are required to provide a traffic demand management plan for each of those 3 tenants. As far as the comprehensive traffic demand management, I'll defer to our city planner to answer that question.
So Commissioner Simons, Planning Commissioners, there's 2 components of the traffic demand management that have been considered as part of this project. One is there's a requirement from the certified EIR that traffic demand management be prepared for the project comprehensively. It doesn't specify whether it's per use or altogether for all of El Corazon. As an example, there's 5 already entitled uses that are in various phases of construction. Some of them are completed, some of them are under construction, and the majority of them are not operational at this time. We do have draft traffic demand management plans that the city traffic engineer has reviewed. As she refers to it, they're living documents. Once these projects become operational, they'll have to be assessed again to see if for their effectiveness. So that's kind of where we stand with traffic demand management with respect to overall at El Corazon. At some point, there may be enough demand where there is one full comprehensive traffic demand management plan prepared for all of El Corazon. I don't believe we've achieved that synergy at this point because there are so many projects that aren't operational at this time. So it's hard to predict how those the effectiveness of the traffic demand management plans that we've considered already.
Okay, thank you. And then if the project is approved and it's conditioned upon producing this traffic demand management plan, the public doesn't get another view at it. If it's not produced in this hearing, do they get another opportunity to view and comment and be part of that process?
Commissioner Simons, Planning Commissioner, that's correct. And those aren't typically plans that are reviewed by the public. Those are plans that are required to be submitted before a project gains full occupancy. There's a different, under the zoning ordinance, there's different thresholds at which traffic demand management plans are, when they're required, when they exceed that threshold, when they're submitted to the city for review and approval. To the point that they're living documents, they may evolve over time. Enforcement and tracking them is an issue that we haven't ran into yet because so few of the projects that we've processed since we've adopted that portion of the zoning ordinance have not required traffic demand management plans. So in the future, that's something that the city is going to have to keep an eye on and track and to assert and consider their effectiveness.
Thank you. Commissioner Dodds, your turn.
Yes, from the comments that were submitted, there were a few that raised concerns about the handling of hazardous waste for the R&D facility. I was wondering if there is a representative for Ionis Pharmaceutical available. If there's, so I have a question: has Ionis received any 483s or non-compliant sightings from the FDA for handling of waste management? Either one.
Pressing buttons. We have not.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other questions coming. We'll come back, obviously, to this body if there are others. We have the applicant and the representatives here available to answer any questions. They don't have a presentation this evening. So we're going to go to the public. We'll start with our slips. If you didn't submit a slip, you're more than welcome to come up. I think we have a manageable group here, so we'll go the full 3 minutes for everybody. Go ahead and start calling out names.
Thank you. Please come forward in the order I call your name. State your name. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. The first speaker will be Thomas Lichterman. Second, David Dolahan. Third, Amalia Bauli Fuentes. And fourth, Diane Nygaard. And I'd like to encourage you, to use both the lecterns, please.
Yeah, go ahead, sir, and the next speaker stage at the next one, and that way we just go one after another. And like you did, sir, if you need to bring the microphone down to your, that's perfect. You're doing great. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Chairman Rosales and Commissioners. My name is Tom Lichterman. I'm the chairman of the Oceanside Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, a group representing over 75 Oceanside residents who are concerned about infrastructure for cycling and pedestrian use in the city. We have reviewed the Oceanside Boulevard Commercial Development Plan, the basic layout sheet that was available, as well as the El Corazon specific plan with regard to pedestrian and cycling concerns. We submitted a letter dated April 20th to the Commission. Hopefully you've all received that and had a chance to look at it. To summarize, the stated El Corazon vision and sustainability guidelines in the specific plan are laudable, and we support them. And we are not against commercial development on the OBC sites per se. However, the development plan before you today does not reflect the vision statement nor the sustainability guidelines in the specific plan that was adopted for this site. Quoting the first sentence from the vision for El Corazon is to create a welcoming, pedestrian-friendly atmosphere that captures the character of the city of Oceanside, unquote. Several of the sustainability guidelines refer to developing near public transportation, to reduce vehicle trips and induce pedestrian activity, and to providing direct and safe connections for pedestrians, cyclists, as well as drivers to the key components of the project. But instead of having a pedestrian-friendly atmosphere as called for in the vision statement, this proposal is highly automobile-oriented with 4 drive-through restaurants, a gas station, and a car wash. The R&D buildings have a lot of parking surrounding them, which pedestrians or cyclists would have to traverse to get to their jobs if they weren't driving to work, which is something we would be encouraging, people not driving. And the plan does not take into account the fact that there's a Sprinter station right across the street. This project should be designed as a transit-oriented development with enhanced pedestrian access, not a car-oriented development. And we just celebrated Earth Day a couple of days ago. Major environmental goals to reduce greenhouse gases. This project does not appear to be doing that with all the drive-through activity. We believe in the words that were written in the specific plan and that they matter. Therefore, we respectfully request that this commission reject the development plan and request the developer to revise it to be more in keeping with the vision statement and the sustainability guidelines of the specific plan. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
My name is David Dolan. I'm a board member of the Friends of El Corazon. My issue and concern is related to the traffic demand management model. City staff have already told you that they have 5 TDMs that have, as required by the EIR, the final EIR. There will be 3 additional ones. There will be, I'm pretty sure, another one not because of the employee trips, because of the overall trip generation related to the gas station and the drive-through restaurant. Employee trips are a minor component to the overall TDM responsibility in travel demand management. You are looking at high volume turnover businesses in a gas station and drive-through restaurants. That's great. TDMs need to be taken into account. However, our concern is what guarantees of performance, what performance bonds have been put in place for the existing previous 5 TDMs, and how is that being managed? Is the city requiring this of the developer for this component and future developments? Because you can't handle that comprehensive management plan of a TDM without some guarantees, because you're allowing that target to move fast relatively forward, and you're waiting on everything to develop, and it's all under development. But I don't have the comfort and assurances that that is being properly managed. And I come from an urban planning background, and guarantees of performance and performance bonds are a valuable tool and should be required, especially in a TDM environment. However, you as staff have to professionally manage that. There are time limits, there are performance requirements, there were renewal requirements should they expire, and somebody has to be herding that herd of chickens into a path. By the way, chickens don't go in a path. It's a little bit like scattershot. So I would like for staff to have some assurances not to punish this developer, but hold this developer and all the other developers accountable for the overall TDM coordination for this entire site, because it's going to get away from you before you know it, if it hasn't already. So that's our concern.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, good evening. My name is Amalia Boli-Fuentes. I'm an attorney with the law firm Lozo Drury, and I'm here representing Supporters Alliance for Environmental Responsibility, or SAFER. SAFER is requesting that the Planning Commission refrain from approving this project until an EIR has been prepared. We submitted comments on the 21st, so I will summarize those briefly. Written comments. The project is not within the scope of the prior EIR that it is relying on, because whether this project is considered commercial or office within the specific plan, the project's land use exceeds what was contemplated under the 2009 EIR. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, thank you so much. Additionally, there are new mitigation measures now available that are distinct from those that were available when the 2009 EIR was certified and when the 2019 addendum was approved. Those have yet to be considered for this project. Air quality experts from the environmental consulting firm Soil Water Air Protection Enterprise, or SWAPE, identified a number of measures from the Connect SoCal September 2020 addendum which are feasible for this project. Both the 2009 EIR and the 2019 addendum concluded that the project would have significant and unavoidable air quality impacts, so these measures could help make that impact less than significant. And on that same note, because the 2009 EIR and the 2019 addendum admitted significant and unavoidable impacts to air quality and transportation from the project, a second-tier EIR is necessary. This second-tier EIR can consider and implement the air quality mitigation measures identified by SWAPE. And lastly, CEQA requires a more detailed review of energy impacts than that which was given in the consistency checklist for this project, especially because energy impacts of the project were not formally analyzed in either the 2009 EIR or the 2019 addendum. SAFER therefore respectfully requests that the Planning Commission direct staff to prepare an EIR for this project in order to fully assess its impacts under CEQA. Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable Chair and Commissioners, Diane Nygaard representing Preserve Calavera. And I should be clear, we do not object to this project, but we do think there's still some issues to be addressed. It was known in 2009 that this project would cause, not this specific project, but the entire El Corazon, would cause traffic failures along both Oceanside Boulevard and El Camino Real. And these failures were so bad they could not be mitigated. That's why the city adopted overriding considerations. Under those conditions, the city is still required to make a good faith effort to address them, even though they can't be fully mitigated. And that resulted in the requirement for the TDM plans for the entire site. And for TDM to work, you don't just wait until the last projects are moving forward that are adding to that traffic. It needs to be accumulative at everything on the site, a comprehensive plan that covers all of the land uses, and everybody contributes their fair share, and it's implemented in phases as traffic increases. But that's not what should have happened. It's not what happened. What's happened is until we got to the arena project, 4 others had already been approved. With the arena, the city said, whoops, we really need to start to address TDM. And those 5 draft plans were prepared, and those 5 draft plans are sitting on the shelf. And this project is now going to be required to add a 6th to that. Months ago, we were told that the OBC commercial project would trigger the requirements for all of these plans to actually move forward, go from a draft to something that's really in operation. But what the staff report says, and look at very closely what those conditions say, that they will consider a comprehensive TDM plan once the buildings are occupied. Consider doesn't address traffic impacts. Consider doesn't comply with the 2009 EIR. And consider does not make sure that all of the traffic, air quality, and greenhouse gas impacts from all of the car trips by all of the projects already approved have been addressed. We ask you to say consider is not good enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next four speakers, I'm going to go ahead and call your name again. Come forward and state your name. You'll have 3 minutes. Be sure to stage in the front row if you'd like while you're waiting your turn. Mike Bullock, Michelle Cryer, Jan DeRozier, and Joan Bachman.
Yeah, Honorable Chair and members of the Planning Commission, I'm Mike Bullock. I live at 1800 Bayberry Drive in Oceanside, and I am a retired satellite systems engineer. I really appreciate all the history we have of the project and the environmental impact reports that have been done. However, we have to consider our rapidly changing understanding of our climate emergency. We must achieve the world's 2030 climate stabilization requirement. Contributing to climate destabilization is a significant environmental impact. And none of that was reported in any EIR for this project. Destabilization results in, quote, a devastating collapse of the human population, end quote. And that's from an article in a Scientific American entitled The Ethics and Economics of Climate Change. Recently, CARB released its updated scoping plan. Now, the purpose of that scoping plan is to show us how to achieve California's 2030 climate mandate. The electrification of our cars will not happen soon enough. We must reduce 2030 driving by 25% compared to 2019 level. This exceeds our previous understanding by a lot. To do this, we must have, for example, priced parking, probably right-sized parking. The location is across the street from a Sprinter station that must be, given the future we face, electrified, double-tracked, automated, and run 24/7 with short headways. It must carry a significant percent of the trips to the TOD developments close to its station. The managed parking system cannot reduce the net income of employees. The employee parking lot earnings must be divided up between the employees. When the employees get the earnings, we need to think about how we're managing parking. The employees that drive and the employees that don't drive both get earnings regardless of how they get to work and regardless of their pay grade. Those that drive every day must also break even. So a third-party car parking vendor is needed. Car parking management is complicated. This should be a transit-oriented development, conforming to the only future we can have. There should not be any drive-through businesses. There should not be a gas station. There should not be a car wash. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Honorable Chair and members of the Planning Commission. I'm Michelle Sear. I'm a concerned Oceanside resident, avid cyclist, walker, and a member of the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee. I frequently ride my bike past this area at Rancho del Oro and Oceanside Boulevard en route to the San Luis Rey Trail that I ride frequently, enjoying the scenic beauty of this corner the development is proposed for. I also frequent our event and senior center for various activities, meetings, and events. I'm really worried about how this development will work for us, as well as how it will aesthetically look. I have a number of concerns about the plans currently being proposed. Number one, they do not appear to be in line with the El Corazon vision statement and sustainability guidelines in the specific plan. The plans are not seeming to be pedestrian or bicycle friendly enough as they appear. Instead, they look auto-centric. I do not see any specific bicycle or pedestrian entrances leading me to worry about safety. It's difficult enough to navigate the streets of Oceanside as a cyclist or a pedestrian. We don't need more developments like this with huge sprawling parking lots covering our precious earth, especially considering our climate crisis. Which leads me to number 2, the gas station and drive-through restaurants proposed will lead to more greenhouse emissions, further polluting for our community and our planet. They are centered on drivers, not cyclists or pedestrians, and are not in line with the CARB's 2022 scoping plan. This is not the type of development we need in our communities or on our planet. It would be nice to see some local restaurants with outdoor seating built and placed in and around the landscaping so we and our dogs can enjoy the scenery, with bike racks scattered around. I'm always looking for a bike rack when I go eat somewhere or have a coffee. Number 3, considering the fact that it's just across the street from a transit center, it does not appear to be transit-oriented. There seems to be way more parking than necessary or required. It's lacking in enough pedestrian and bike paths as well as a paid parking system to deter vehicles and to encourage more bikes and pedestrians to frequent these businesses. I'd also like to see safe bike storage containers built into the plans, enough of them to be able to handle the growth in the number of cyclists here in Oceanside. My final thought, which is an ask, is that I urge you to reject this development plan as proposed and request that the developer bring back a proposal more in line with the specific plans, own guidelines, and the bicycle, pedestrian, and transit orientation that this site, the El Corazon OBC project, and the residents of the city of Oceanside deserve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners and Planning staff. Jan DeRoja, 1213 Kirby Way, Oceanside, California, speaking on behalf of Friends of El Corazon. First, though, just me. As I have stated in the past, I have to once again give kudos to Sudbury Development staff for their ownership of the specific plan and working with the Friends of El Corazon to keep within the guidelines. Sudbury Development has supported the Friends of El Corazon in their quest to comply with the specific plan. And not only in this respect, but also in giving back to the community. Right now, they are a major sponsor for an upcoming Concerts in the Park out at El Corazon. Sudbury and SoCal Sports have worked with us to make this family-friendly concert free to the public. This is just my little plug for the concert series. So it's coming up. The first one's going to be on Father's Day. That's June 18th, and that's a special tribute to the Highwaymen, if anyone's into country, who isn't. Gone Blonde, who's a local funk, soul, and rock band, and actually an employee from the city of Oceanside, is in that band. He's really exciting. It's Marlone from Maintenance, yeah. That's going to be on July 16th, and then we finish up with a island and reggae music on August 27th. So that's just my little plug. Now for the formal statement from the Friends of El Corazon that is going to be elaborated on by others. The Friends of El Corazon generally supports the development of the Oceanside Boulevard commercial area as identified in the original specific plan for El Corazon. The overall development plan, and more specifically, the Ionis pharmaceutical facility, are supported by the Friends of El Corazon as stated previously. The other proposed uses are retail restaurants and drive-through restaurants, and also 2 office manufacturing pods. I could go on, but somebody else is going to address these other things. We did totally vet the R&D. Ionis, thank you very much. I mean, we spent hours going through all of their materials and all of their hazardous waste, so we are very much in favor of them. Thank you. Sorry I couldn't finish it all.
Thank you.
Got the concerts in there. That was good.
Hey, Joan Bachman. Good evening, Commissioners. First, I do want to say thanks to Sudbury for their support of Park 1. They're building 2 fields on it, and they've been very generous with their time with us. They've been talking to us literally for years. But this is the end of the road, really. Once this development happens, there will not be any opportunity to use the equipment already on site. So if we put dirt in the wrong place, even though we're hearing it's going to go in the right place, it will stay there forever. and we lose an opportunity to move our park forward. We had experience on Park 1 trying to do that. We had to really bring a lot of information and so we really want some stronger language in everything. Just for the public, that is Park 6, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Park 6. I understand staff says that's a separate process. We understand that, but we need some teeth. Like the TDM plan, we need some real teeth in these things because when it's just left to us, we're pushing a rope so much of the time. Do this. Okay, this is a view, zoom in there, Park 6 from the west, and this is the hill we're talking about. That's 800 feet, okay? That's coming up the loop road. This is a view from that hill that two of you got up on that hill with me. I don't know if the rest of you have seen that, but that's the view of the fields that you can see for the soccer fields. Is there a way to zoom in here? Can somebody do that? So we are asking specifically to raise that hill by at least 40 feet. Right now, they've got some big blob, and our ability to get in here and work with staff, I've done it. I've done it on other things. We still don't have trees from Ventana we need. I've done it with Park 6, with Vicki. I've done it with Paul Pham, and with Jim. I'm really pushing a rope, so we need teeth. Okay, so that's an 800 by 600 foot area. It's in a little bit of a triangle, but it's huge. 40 feet is nothing. So there are already ponds up on Park 6. That's me and that big 800-foot wide hill on top. And the views from Oceana are not blocked, even though we don't have any kind of a view ordinance. So we want you to adopt the conditions that we gave you. We crafted them to give us flexibility to make the city bring it. We understand, we like Sudbury, we want them to get this project done, but we don't want to lose the park in the process. And I do want to say in final that Oil Corazon must come before the beach. I don't want to just waste our resources of El Corazon on something that honestly is going to get swept away. So please put the resources of El Corazon on El Corazon. And as everybody knows, El Corazon is a park. It will always be a park. It is a park. It's so much more than the developments that come forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Next speaker.
That concludes our slips, Chairman Rosales.
Concludes our slips, but you're more than welcome to come forward.
Kevin Bachman. I wasn't intending to talk, but when I heard the comment about move dirt once, I kind of thought, like, it's an interesting objective. What does it really mean to move dirt once? Is that just the lowest cost option to deal with an excess dirt problem? 1.7 million square yards of dirt should be viewed not as a problem, but as an opportunity. Use this to enhance the park by artful topography. Great landscape architecture for the park will be an enduring gift to future Oceansiders. Please condition the approval of OBC and require the enhancement of the landscape architecture plan so the dirt problem can be used to enhance the park and not just to peanut butter and fill gaps. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, before we close the public hearing, certainly welcome anybody else to come forward. All right, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for discussion. I'll start, I guess. The TDM discussion certainly got a lot of traction, and I think my takeaway, I forget which speaker was addressed this point, I was making some notes as he was speaking, was the coordination. And I think the term was used, herding all of the different developments as they occur now and through the future. So the coordination thing is, I guess my takeaway is maybe staff can address I don't know, is there a need? I mean, it sounds like maybe there's a need or a thought to coordinating present day and future traffic concerns and TDM and so forth, as opposed to sort of one-offs here and there, sort of a comprehensive approach, if you will. Is that something that's possible, or has that been contemplated?
Chair Rosales, I'd like to defer that question to the city traffic engineer who's been dealing with the existing TDM that have been prepared for the current El Corazon projects and how those have been handled and what the contemplation is on how to handle those in the future.
Great, thank you.
Can we get you to talk into the mic?
Oh, you can't hear me? Okay. It seems a little low this evening. Okay. City, if we could get the city traffic engineer to come forward.
Good evening, Chair. So, sorry, can you repeat what your question is?
Yeah, I rambled a lot, but basically it's a question about coordinating the TDM effort in a more, comprehensive way, sort of present day and into the future. Is that something that can be done? Is it being contemplated? Is it, maybe you could just...
Well, currently, we, as has been mentioned in the past, there has been some past TDMs that have been created for the existing developments and some future developments. But I do, as Sergio had mentioned earlier, they're viewed as living documents because El Corazon isn't fully developed, and it's still going to be a handful of years before it is fully developed, and how you have all the properties and the uses in full effect going on. And so we have 5 TDMs that, as I was saying, are living documents, and we have to wait until everything is fully developed before I think we can do a full TDM for all of El Corazon as a whole. And then even then, I think we would finalize it. It would be more of a living document until after things start till everything's in its normal functioning manners and stuff like that. Does that make any sense?
It does. Since they're living documents, the ones that have been done before, I would imagine a new development comes along and it looks at those and plays off of that information, that data. Is that right?
Yes, right now, they're all individually reviewed. It's kind of like, it's not one document looking at 5 different sites. There's 5 TDMs looking at each site individually. And so, and there would be some play off of each other once I think things get developed and there's actual functions going on, such as like the arena, when that is completely built and they have their functions, and we see how things are working when on the streets and how the intersections are affected and how we have transportation with either walking or buses or the train or bikes or anything, and how people come to the site.
Okay. Along those lines? Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Malley.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess maybe to put it a little differently, understanding that there are 5 living documents, we have a major overall project going on. I think maybe a better way to couch the question is, how can we best manage these documents and this overall requirement of TDM? Vice looking at it from 5 separate components, understanding that we have an overarching requirement. What, if anything, can the city do to best manage this overall requirement, understanding that, yes, it's a living document because we don't have a full idea of what the impact of each of these components will be until they come to fruition. But we have a pretty good idea of what the impact, I would assume that we have a pretty good impact or idea of their impact and how they would overlap and come together. So is there anything that we could do to perhaps synergize that effort up front, vice waiting until the project is developed entirely and then looking at the fallout from the impacts and then trying to mitigate from there?
Well, Sergio, with the TDMs, is it required before or after the development per the zoning ordinance?
To my recollection is to answer your question, Commissioner Mallett, the recollection is that the zoning ordinance component of the TDM requires that they be submitted at 75%. So when a project, prior to full occupancy, when there's about 75% established uses there. So as an example, new Ionis opens and they're about 75% staffed. We have to have a TDM on file to make sure that they're addressing the requirement of the zoning ordinance. To better answer your question, there are going to be obligations on the various property owners on all the various projects within the El Cor zone, the city being one of those property owners that has facilities, that functions as facilities. So there's going to be need to be a concerted effort for all these property owners, Sudbury being owners of at least two of the properties within El Cor zone, to make sure that the TDM is functioning as it's anticipated to function. Right now, when there's nothing operational, it's really hard to understand what the demands are. We have draft documents on file that proposes how to manage some of the traffic concerns that are contemplated with the El Cor Zone project. As these projects come online and become occupied, and as Tila mentioned, become operational, and we fully understand what the potential impacts are, those TDMs have to be massaged and perhaps come together as one living document. At this point, it's really hard to project how to best manage those when we don't know exactly what those impacts are, because there haven't been the operations of these functioning facilities at one particular time. When we understand how those projects better interface with each other, then we'll have a better idea on how to update those TDMs to address any concerns that might be observed in the field when projects are operational.
Hold that thought, or maybe come back to that? Okay. Commissioner Simons, go ahead.
Dovetailing on that, so as these things are living documents and as these projects come online, what are the objectives of a TDM? I mean, we're throwing around that term like TDM, but I'm sure there's very specific objectives for these TDMs and metrics of performance to see whether they are performing well. And then how does the public engage with the city because I don't know that that's a planning commission issue once we approve the project, but just from my understanding, how does the public engage with the city in making sure TDM plans are meeting the objectives and being enforced?
So the short answer to your question, Commissioner Simons, is that there really is no opportunity for the public to engage once a project is approved and staff is managing TDMs. We haven't gotten to the point of any of approved projects in the city where we're managing TDMs. The TDMs that have been imposed on projects or required for the ordinance haven't become operational yet. We have a handful of them that I'm familiar with in my time here, that projects that have required TDM. So it's a fairly new phenomenon with respect to being a requirement for the city. I think the first TDMs that we do have on file are these 5 that we have for El Cor Zone. And of course, 3 of the 5 projects aren't operational at this point. And so it's up to city staff to track and implement these TDMs and require revisions to them as these projects come online. That's how we contemplate dealing with this in the future. This probably begs the question that the city is going to need someone to track these requirements, which really lends itself to it's another whole topic altogether with respect to having perhaps a sustainability manager to kind of track these and forward and make sure that the businesses are complying with their requirements and obligations that they agree to when TDM is required of such a project.
Okay, thank you. And also a couple of commenters talked about transit-oriented developments. Can you speak to that? Like, why is this not a transit-oriented development, or is it?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Simons, I was distracted. Can you please repeat your question?
Yeah, there's a couple commenters that talked about this not being a transit-oriented development, and it's right across the street from the Sprinter Station. So can you speak to whether it is or is not a transit-oriented development, and why not if it's not?
Sure. So I'd be the first to acknowledge that this is not a TOD type development. And that's based on the fact that the specific plan calls for traditional retail development at the OBC site. It's what it contemplated when the vision was created. The overarching vision says that we should implement TOD when available. The mixed-use project's a good example of a TOD project that's two mixed-use developments at El Corazon are somewhat TOD development oriented. The Sudbury mixed-use project and the Ventana mixed-use project, where we combine uses in proximity to a major transit stop. This particular project is what the developer has proposed. It's what the market is calling for. It's what the needs have been identified. So we can't require a TOD development when it's the specific plan contemplates traditional retail development at this site. This project represents a reduction in what was actually contemplated at the OBC. Shannon has here the statistics of what the projected ADT with what was actually anticipated at the site compared to what this project represents. So while it's not a TOD development, it is consistent with the specific plan and the OBC district on which it's located in.
Okay, thank you. And I think those numbers were in the staff report, correct?
Chair Rosales, commissioners, they were, but just for reference, I don't think I actually said how many ADT, I just said it was a reduction, but just for reference, the 2009 EIR calculated for the OBC district, 17,500 ADT, average daily trips. The current project as proposed is 9,131 average daily trips. So therefore, it's a significant reduction in average daily trips, and that's because of the reduction in the commercial space. And essentially, since there are fewer trips, it would also result in fewer greenhouse gas emissions. I know that was a comment that was brought up by a few people as well. So it's almost half of the projected ADT that was already analyzed in the EIR from 2009.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Morrissey, go ahead.
I just want to go back to moving the dirt once, and when I asked the question about who is responsible for the soils engineering and topography, and I was told as the applicant, is it only the 50 acres that they're developing?
Planning Commission Vice Chair Marcy, are you referring to the grading plan and what needs to be shown on the grading plan? So as part of the approved tentative map from 2017, there is a mass grading plan that included not only the OBC district area, but also some components of the village commercial area that accommodated the arena. So it's not just the OBC grading plan that was accounted for.
Well, I just want to make sure that once that dirt is moved, it's not moving again. At least if it is, it's going to be very expensive. So I want to make sure that the city is happy with where it's going. Thank you. Is happy with where it's going. And what I've heard, I'm not satisfied that we have that. And I know the two areas that we have, but has the city talked to the Friends, the El Corazon about where those are? And I know everybody wants something. Some things just aren't, possible. But I just want to make sure that once this dirt's moved, that we've talked about that. Because right now, before it's moved, we can collaboratively do something together to get a win-win. But once it's moved, I just think it's going to be very difficult, and everybody's going to forget about it. And then we're going to be saying, well, why didn't we do this or do that?
So Vice Chair Morrissey, Planning Commissioners, as part of the condition of approval that engineering drafted, there is language in there that the precise grading plan must be approved by the city engineer. So the city will have to approve of any soil disposal locations prior to any movement of the soil. So I'll defer to the city engineer if he wants to elaborate on that, though.
Good evening, Vice Chair Morrissey. To elaborate a little bit further on that, we will work with the applicant to make sure that we're all happy with it, including discussions with the Friends. We want to make sure that this is done right, and I'm not going to sign off on it until it is done right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Malik?
Yeah, I guess to to Tom's point, and thank you for that. I think the gentleman that came up just said this was really an opportunity. I think we all understand that moving this much dirt is a great opportunity for us. With the soil type, the composition of the soil and where it's going to go, I think maybe one of the points that we were trying to make here was the grading plan for the location where it's going to be deposited a part of that overall effort. We talk about where it's coming from. I think we're as concerned about where it's going to, along with its composition, the type of soil that it is. Will it need to be moved again later just because of stability, what needs to be put in those places? So I guess, is it a holistic look that it takes into account both the removal and the placement, the grading required at placement to ensure that we optimize the overall effort?
Commissioner Malik, thank you for the question. Yes, let's backtrack a little bit in how this works. We can't allow movement from one site to another without a disposal plan or grading plan from site A and a grading plan from site B. So until we have both grading plans approved, dirt can't move. And it doesn't matter whether it's on El Corazon or from El Corazon to the camp or out to North River Farms, whatever. Without these two plans approved by the engineering department, it's just not moving. And in order to do that, we have to look at it from a holistic perspective. What is the best use of this? What are the overall uses? Let's take El Corazon into account. We have a number of parks. What are those going to look like at the end of the day? We have 1.7 million yards of dirt that need to be relocated. And how do we best do that? One, so that it's the least expense to the applicant, but also the best benefit to the park itself. So these are things that are always in the back of our mind. We're just not going to move forward with something and say, oh yeah, okay, we'll deal with that later. I mean, we understand the costs, that today's costs are 50% tomorrow's costs, so let's do it right.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I didn't mean to assume that you weren't taking those same things into account, but I think for the perspective of what has been brought up by the public, we wanted to make sure that that was being addressed. So thank you very much for your efforts.
Absolutely, no offense taken, sir.
And I think you emphasized, too, that collaboration with the Friends of El Corazon would be part of that discussion group going forward when you're looking at those plans.
We've made it a point to make sure that the applicant has worked with the Friends of El Corazon. We also have meetings with the Friends to make sure that we're doing it in a holistic manner.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Dodds, I'll go to you first, and then Vice Chair Morrissey.
Okay, not to beat this horse dead, but I know we've been talking about this one comment was made about having teeth. And I hear what you're saying, and I believe that you want to do the right thing, but if we just have minimum requirements, if it gets too hard, I think there's a concern that we will just get it done and move on. But if we raise that level of minimum requirements with some teeth, to ensure that the right thing is done, I think that's what we're looking for. And I don't know the words, I don't have the answers, but we just want to make sure that this opportunity that we have, that we take advantage of it, and we try to make this a win-win for everyone.
Thank you. Vice Chair Morrissey, you want to conclude your comments or add more to?
Just a question. If this resolution is passed tonight, do we have a projection of when the grading would start out there?
Vice Chair Morrissey, Planning Commissioners, well, again, they would need to submit a precise grading plan that would need to be reviewed by engineering staff and meet the requirements of the purchase and sale agreement and city engineer approval. But as far as when the applicant intends to submit that grading plan, I can defer to them.
Good evening. My name is Tim Birch. I'm with Hunsaker & Associates. I'm the civil engineer for the project. We've got a mass grading plan for the site submitted with the city. It's in third review. but we have not submitted the disposal plan. We actually have a meeting next week to discuss where we're going to put that dirt. So once we figure out exactly where we're going to do it with direction from the city, we will be submitting probably within a couple weeks after that. And it's just a matter of time for how long that approval takes.
Do you have a timeline of when you think you're going to start?
It's, I would guess, 3 months from when we submit, hopefully, optimistically.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions or for the applicant or for staff? Go ahead, Commissioner Dodds.
So there was also concerns about the gas station and the 4 drive-through. And I know this is all tied together. I don't have a problem with the R&D facilities, but it just doesn't make sense to bring a gas station in and drive-throughs, especially when we're talking about a park that promotes more foot traffic and bike paths. We're introducing more cars. I have a big concern with that. Is there a way, or possible way, that we can separate the two, or are they married together and it's like you take one with the other?
Commissioner Dodds, Planning Commissioners, do you mean separate the commercial component from the R&D component? Or I'm not sure.
Yes.
I would have to defer to the applicant. They did submit one complete entitlement package that included both R&D facilities as well as the commercial component. So I would defer to them. But in response to your drive-through and gas station, I just want to remind you, those are all permitted uses per the El Corazon specific plan. So they are, submitting uses that are already allowed within the specific plan.
Commissioner Dodds, if I may elaborate a little bit on Shannon's response to her point that these are, this is the application that's been submitted to the city. This is the application that we've reviewed for consistency with the El Corazon specific plan and found it to be consistent with the specific plan. One of the goals of the OBC is to provide enough revenue for in the future to help fund park maintenance and park improvements. Drive-through, like it or not, drive-throughs are high sales tax generators. Gas stations are high sales tax generator. So if we're really looking to meet the intent of the OBC, which is to provide revenue for future park development, future park maintenance, this project checks that box. It also provides a job center with respect to the R&D facilities being proposed. So we're here today to confirm that staff has reviewed the project. We find it to be consistent with the uses that are permitted within the specific plan, with the uses with the vision that's contemplated by the specific plan for the OBC site. We're not reviewing a different project. This is the project that we're reviewing and bringing forward. Had the applicant submitted a different project, that's what we would have brought forward to you at the time. So to Shannon's point, separating and bifurcating the project and omitting the commercial would be a decision that the applicant would have to make, and a decision that they would make and voice here at this meeting here tonight.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Morrissey, go ahead.
I'm ready to make a motion unless there's other discussion.
We have one more question before you make that motion. Commissioner Simons, go ahead.
Okay, so relative to the drive-throughs and the car wash, so it says in the package that eating and drinking establishments with takeout service are allowed in the OBC, but we need to do a conditional use permit for this. So there is something for us to decide in that particular component of the project, is they need a conditional use permit to operate the drive-throughs, and the same thing with the gas station. So that's on the table. I just put that out there because I don't know if that was clear. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Morrissey?
Yes, thanks. I'd like to make a motion that we approve staff's recommendation that we adopt Planning Commission Resolution Number 2023-P9, approving development plan D2211 and 9 CUPs 00013/14/18/19/21/22/23/24 with findings and conditions of approval attached herein.
And then, excuse me, Chair Rosales, Vice Chair Morsi, if you agree to that revised condition also, we would need to read that into the motion. The revised traffic condition number 233 that was placed on your desk.
You can just say it.
So be it.
So the motion by Vice Chair Morrissey is to accept the proposed action with the inclusion of revised condition 233. Any further discussion on this motion?
Yeah,
I'm looking for.
I would have, I mean, we've had some quick Q&A with the staff, but I don't know if, you know, as the board, we have deliberated, as a commission, we have deliberated about it. So I know that there's been a lot of concerns with the grading plan being a future thing that we're going to look at. So I think internal to the commission, the commissioners here, we should discuss, is there a way for us to get a look at that final plan before we move forward with this project? That I think is a concern of mine, is that we're just leaving it up to the city at that point when there's a lot of folks that have a lot of concerns about it here. We could deny the project subsequent to you coming with the final plan. I believe that is an option if we wanted to take a look at that, but I don't know where the rest of the board sits on something like that.
It would be a little bit out of the norm for the commission to typically will direct staff to, in this example, to work with the applicant, as was offered by the city engineer, work with the Friends of Corazon, collaboratively with the soil management plan, and leave it at that. If the request is to allow that process to happen, and then we see something in its final form, but we're not acting on it, I think I'm okay with that idea, but I don't think it would be the norm then to actually take that final plan and take action on. The action would be here tonight to direct staff to work on that. So
Can I comment on that?
Absolutely.
I would like just to say that I talked to Mr. Sudbury and someone else that's involved in the project, and they said, and Diane is here, that Sudbury folks have been very attentive to what they've been talking to. They've spent an inordinate amount of time with Joan, and I think that I can trust our staff to do the right thing. So that's why I'm making that motion as I made it.
Okay, Commissioner Obama, you want to add to that, or?
I think you already kind of said exactly what I was going to say, because it was stated already that the city staff is going to work with the applicant and the Friends of El Corazon to come up with a plan that's going to work. I think they know a lot more about it and what should be done than ourselves. They're much more passionate with it. So I think as long as that was stated by our city staff, and I think I'm good with it.
But I will say, I mean, it's a good idea to at least kind of follow the path of the discussion. And if staff, once that's concluded, we're not acting on anything, but if you want to share with the commission, maybe do a quick presentation and the public can see that too, that might be helpful. That way we can kind of see the progress.
Chair Rosales, if it's the commission's desire, we certainly can bring back the final approved grading plan for the depositing of the cut material to this board once that process has played out.
Great. Okay. So then we have a motion on the floor to approve the project as proposed. Commissioner Baum, before I finish.
I would just say, and I'd second that motion.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the project as proposed with the condition modified on condition 233. We have a second on that motion. Any further discussion? Don't see any, so let's go ahead and vote.
Let the record show that the motion passes 6-1 with Commissioner Dodds voting no.
Great, thank you. We'll go to, that concludes our public hearing items. Thank you, everybody, for your participation this evening. We're going to go to discussion items, which is the next part of the agenda with some material. We have two discussion items tonight. The first is a presentation by Leslie Gall called the Visit Oceanside Sustainable Tourism master plan update, and then our second item will be the housing annual progress report presented by staff. Leslie? Yeah. Yeah. We'll take a 2-minute recess, staff, so that we can clear the chambers real quick.
That I just talked about, and then next steps. Project overview. So in 2018, our board of directors made it a priority in our strategic framework, long-term strategic framework, to do a tourism master plan for Oceanside. This has never been done before, so it was really exciting for us to look at this. And then COVID happened and got us sidetracked a couple of years. But I think that really worked to our benefit, given COVID and some things that we learned, how important destination stewardship is as we move forward. So we thought it was the right time to mirror sustainable tourism and look at it through the lens of destination stewardship as we look at responsibly developing Oceanside over the next 10 years. So we're really excited to be working hand in hand with city staff. We have my executive board of directors and many of the city staff are on the steering committee with the general plan update. It's also good timing, so we're not working in silos. We're working together and supporting those things, especially where there's crossover. So really excited about the timing of this. We hired MMGY Next Factor, was thrilled that Darlene Nicandro was a part of the hiring committee for that and was able to have her input along with Michelle Galler in economic development in selecting the organization. They're a global organization. They work with hundreds of destinations throughout the world. They've done 30 plus destination management plans for different destinations. They've partnered with a company called the Hunden Strategic Partners. They're a group out of Chicago. They're really focused on the product development side to the plan and looking at opportunities from product development and potential new markets. Because as we look at this, we want to look and make sure we're growing demand in the off-season beyond the beaches in the summer. And then for the sustainability piece, we've partnered with the Travel Foundation to do that. They are working on an assessment right now. We should hear the results from that assessment in a couple of weeks. But they are looking at our policies as a city and comparing it to the policies that were created by the Global Sustainable Tourism Council. So that assessment will look at the criteria that they have created for global destinations and see how we match up with that and look at opportunities that we need to focus on and moving forward. Again, looking at this holistic. So what do we mean by sustainable tourism? With us, there's so many, people think of sustainability in so many different ways. There's different definitions for that. And yes, the environment is really important and it is a key part of this sustainable tourism master plan, but we want to look at it again holistically. We want to make sure we're looking at from social aspect, a cultural aspect, and an economic aspect. How do we grow Oceanside responsibly? How do we impact demand in the off-season that also impacts our quality of life and it's done in a balanced way? We want to make sure tourism stays resilient far into the future. When we created the RFP for the Tourism Master Plan, we wanted to look at 4 pillars that we wanted to make sure that were considered as we went through this process, and that is the environmental quality, the quality of life of our residents, the quality of the economy, and the quality of the visitor experience when they arrive. The deliverables from the RFP include a competitive assessment against other destinations, a destination assessment for sustainable management of tourism, specific recommendations for growing market share and develop new markets, prioritize a list of product development opportunities, policy recommendations to allow for innovation, new product and program recommendations for need periods, that's key, recommendations for infrastructure and beautification improvements, a strong buy-in for the plan with meaningful engagement. We just are wrapping up the engagement phase, and that was probably the most important piece because we want to make sure people feel a part of this and engaged with it. And then, of course, most importantly, an effective implementation plan. If you know me, I don't do things and put them on a shelf. Hopefully, Louise can attest to that. We do need to have a plan to implement this, and we'll be doing strategic planning to figure out our priorities for that. It is a phased approach. As I mentioned, right now, we are just wrapping up the engagement phase. We are going to start going into the data analysis stage and then a visioning workshop. Our
we'll be doing that the first week of June, and then with our visioning workshop with the steering committee and my board of directors on June 22nd. So really excited to roll up our sleeves, really start getting into the data. Like I say, you're just going to get a very, very high level look at some of the data tonight, but really excited to get into it. And then, of course, in the fall, we'll hopefully be able to present the plan and implement it. The stakeholder engagement. These are some of the activities we've been doing over the last few months. We've had steering committee sessions. We've had one-on-one interviews with, we actually went over, I think we interviewed almost a dozen business leaders in the community, industry-related, and legislators and city council members. We've done 8 focus groups that comprise of the different business sectors in our industry. We did 2 town halls in the community, one coastal, one inland, and one in the evening. We did an online resident survey, and we did a DNEX industry survey. The resident survey. One of the things we wanted to identify is the perception the residents have of tourism and get a feel of what their sentiment is. We had over 1,500 respondents from our residents. I'm really excited about that number. Our goal was 1,000, and we far exceeded that. We were really aggressive in our outreach with our residents and was happy with that response. Just to give you an idea of that makeup, 97% are full-time Oceanside residents. 70% have lived in Oceanside for at least 6 years. 39% have lived in Oceanside for 20 plus years. 58% over the age of 50. 66% are female. Thank you, females, for filling out surveys. We appreciate that. And 80% do not work in the hospitality industry. I thought this number was really important to share because it's not biased information. These are people, true residents, who are not working in the not working in our industry. Although we do know from our lodging partners through anecdotally about 90% of their employees are Oceanside residents. So we don't want to forget that. And that's a bit of the makeup. Key findings. One of the most exciting things for me is that the residents feel really positive about the benefits of tourism, and it outweighs the negative impacts. They do have concerns, but they feel like tourism is important and it outweighs those impacts. What are some of those impacts that they want to make sure that we're looking at and managing as we put forth this plan? They are ensuring quality drinking water. Obviously, California does have a water shortage, and they want to make sure that we're looking at things like that. Respectful visitor behaviors. This is something really important in my industry. We want high-value visitors coming into Oceanside. We want to try to target those visitors that really respect our values and the things that are important to us. And data is amazing today, and there's amazing ways that we can look at and really get into marketing to those people. Waste management, making sure that that is taken care of, and environmental preservation. We know that this is really key. We know in Oceanside with all of the different studies that we've done with the tax increase and the beach pilot program, the environment and the beach is really important to our residents. So in short, what we will be looking at are visitors who respect local lifestyle and care about protecting Oceanside's natural resources, and we're going to look at that as our primary target market. So these are just some quick things that I wanted to share in addition to the resident survey. This is on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being rated high. So quality of life in Oceanside, you can see the scores are really high. Residents indicated that they are pleased with Oceanside as a place to live and highly recommend it as a place to visit. Most respondents believe tourism is an important component of the Oceanside economy. That was really great for us to hear because we know that our locals can't support our small businesses on their own. It can't be done on the backs of locals. We've got to have multiple diverse revenue coming in. When friends and family visit in Oceanside, what are the top 3 things you take them to see or recommend as an experience? It's no surprise that Oceanside Pier and Harbor always come up very high. The restaurants, walking the coastline, beach, pier, harbor, coastal bike rides, local retail shops and market, the San Luis Rey Mission, and Camp Pendleton. Obviously, Camp Pendleton is a huge driver and opportunity. What are things that we can do to improve the visitor experience? And again, those top things are probably no surprise, but it's the beach improvements, making sure we're taking care of that beach. It's key to the visitor experience as well as the locals, and it's a part of our culture and our social life as well. Homelessness, that's no surprise, the traffic congestion, speed, and parking. So tourism Oceanside, we kind of wanted to see what respondents strongly believed in, and there were things that were really positive that rose to the top. but then there were other things that they believed that were major concerns, so we just kind of separated those out. The respondents strongly believe that it will generate revenue for local businesses. It will create opportunities for new businesses and employment for residents. People want to come, businesses like product development businesses and biotech businesses want to come to a community that has this vibe and have these amenities and things that tourism helps support. It creates a positive ambiance vibe in the local community. Some of the things that they all believe in that could be more of a concern, or it will create traffic congestion and increase housing costs. And we do know workforce housing is an issue for our industry. It's something our industries had to look at that we really didn't think that we would have to do, and that would be a part of our role as DMOs. But more and more it's talk in our industry on how to impact that. Again, this slide I felt was really encouraging that I wanted to share as well. Almost half the respondents believe that there are too many visitors during the summer season. We know the summer as well, that's peak season. We don't need to focus on that, and the beach is a great draw. But it's important that over 1/3 of the respondents feel that there are too few visitors during the winter months. So they know the winter is a need period. They believe that more tourism needs to happen again to have more of those revenues coming in, diverse revenues coming in for our small businesses. So really excited to see that. The DNEX survey, this is the industry survey that we conducted. And the industry survey, that was comprised of industry members, the different business sectors in the travel and tourism industry. There were community involvement in that as it relates to our legislators and economic development and government people. And then our market, we wanted to make sure that we were letting our meeting planners and tour operators and travel agencies have input on this plan. So really quick, we were really excited about how the survey came out with this. Oceanside is considered trailblazers. And this is something years ago as an organization, we wanted to make sure that we were change makers for Oceanside. And I don't mean change for the sake of change. I mean thoughtful change in how we moved forward. And I feel like this has kind of resonated with our industry. And as we worked with City all these years, that they see that that's, we want to try to be trailblazers. We know we have a lot of work to do, but also the good news is our destination has so much potential. So it took into consideration strong destination alignment with our industry, and then also strong destination and what the destination offers. And I also think it's interesting to note that out of 200 destinations, only 40% fall in the trailblazer category. Whew. I'm moving quick, guys. Are you with me? I'm trying to help you out here. Destination strength variables, you can see that Oceanside scored a little over the industry average on these. These are the different things that they looked at when they were answering questions regarding the different variables in our community. I won't read through them all, but you can kind of see most of them are, what you would expect them to be. So I'll move on from that. Wanted to share with you those variables where Oceanside scored high on versus the variables that we scored low on. And again, it's not really surprising. Attractions and experiences were high, outdoor recreation, accommodation, arts and cultural heritage, our dining, shopping, and entertainment. The things that we scored low on are health and safety, which I think the homeless in California, we do have a perception problem in our state, and I think that lends itself to people not feeling as safe or as healthy in those environments. Convention and meetings, we obviously have a lot of room to grow in this. We do not have that market right now and could be an opportunity for us. Local mobility access, communication infrastructure, and sporting events. These are the destination alignment variables, the questions that they looked at that address these issues as far as the destination goes. In Oceanside, we scored a little higher than the average, being a little over 4 points versus 3.5. I won't read them all, but this gives you an idea of what those destination alignment questions were about. Yeah. And then I wanted to share the things that we scored high on in this category and the things that we scored low on. Our high score values were organizational governance, which I really appreciate seeing this as a CEO, that people have trust in our organization, and that's really important. Economic development, equity, diversity, and inclusion, business support, and government support. Things that we scored low on is workforce development. We're struggling like any other industry. I think worse than most industries. It's still really tough out there. Really feeling for our small businesses in that area. Funding support and certainty. My organization has a very small budget compared to competing destinations just to the north and south of us. We need to look at revenue opportunities to grow so we can compete. It's a very competitive marketplace, especially in Southern California, you can imagine. So there's concerns on how do we increase our funding so we can compete in a healthy way. Community group and resident support, improvement to do there, emergency preparedness, and a hospitality culture. And I think that's really having the community understand the importance of hospitality and creating that welcome culture in our community. Everybody's seeing themselves as an ambassador when we have our visitors come to town. The destination assessment piece, we're almost there. The destination assessment piece is the assessment that the Hunden Group did. This is the group out of Chicago who is really assessing the destination and looking at opportunities from a product development standpoint and new market opportunities. When they're looking at it, they're wanting to define what Oceanside is now, what our destination looks like now, compare it to other similar destination cities, which was really interesting. We got to see some of that. Identify opportunities and then make recommendations for execution. So this is super high level because we'd be here a couple hours. Just kind of things that are rising to the top is we have strong hotel supply, strong sports, and strong recreation parks and natural assets. Our beach is obviously a key natural asset that we have. Good is shopping, dining, winery, and breweries. And then weak is our convention and conferences, and then major attractions. So they just created, just for our brief overview with staff, just some high-level like opportunities and then maybe what the priority level could look like. Again, this is just things that rose to the top. Nothing has been decided on. We haven't even gotten to the visionary stage of this process. But I thought for fun, I'd share a little bit of this. If you look at, he lists the opportunities and how, moderate or good the opportunity is, and then maybe a priority level on where it should be. The conventions and conference is a moderate opportunity. They see this as being a midterm kind of thing to work on. We do need an event space that accommodates more than 500 people to use for entertainment and events to help with that off-season business. For entertainment, it's good, and some of the opportunities we have for that is the Front Wave Arena and Ocean Camp. I think those could be really game changers for us, especially developing business in the off-season in a different part of Oceanside, impacting a different area. And then the Oceanside Pier Amphitheater. That is a priority. It's a priority for my industry to get through phase 2. That's a huge opportunity in core. It's something that we hear from our community, from the residents. They want to see that activated. They want to see more events and things going on. And of course, that's not only amenity for them, but it drives tourism and gives them an experience while they're here too. It really is symbiotic. It isn't separate. Hotel supply, moderate. They feel like there's a need for additional select service hotels, especially with the arena and the SoCal Sports Complex. Right now, depending on the time of year, we don't have that year-round business, but there are times when we lose lodging out to other communities because we don't have it when the sporting events are going on at the SoCal Sports Complex. Sports, limited opportunities, but obviously Front Wave Arena could be a big one for that. The SoCal Sports Complex and building that out. There's so many things that we could be doing with that to add different amenities and stuff to better compete and be able to do more of events throughout the year. And then the aquatic center is an opportunity. Shopping, dining, food hall, really strong opportunities for that. One of the things they felt was a real need was creating connectivity from the beach to the downtown area through green spaces, activated plazas, wayfinding. I know the green and the beautification was a really important piece to that. And just beyond that, they mentioned connectivity to the other visitor serving areas that are key throughout the other, whether it's the harbor or South O or Alcor zone. How can we create that connectivity more through the experience and branding? But also, I think GoSide can really help us with that. I'm really excited that our board voted to assist with some of the funding on that because that's going to be key, but we also want it to be a holistic approach for the city. We see this as just a short-term thing to build towards a more comprehensive approach for that. And then food hall with the agritourism, they thought that was a really unique differentiator for Oceanside. We know that, we believe in that, we've been supporting that for a long time, and really create that synergy between South Moore Hills and the downtown area. They feel like the harbor could be a really unique space for that, for a food hall and entertainment center that ties that in. A lot of harbor, Dana Point Harbor is totally redoing the harbor up there. They're creating this new boathouse entertainment center. A lot of harbors use the boat as a theme, but how different would it be for Oceanside if we created synergy with agritourism and the harbor could be one of those really unique venues as an entertainment space to really differentiate us. So really just fun ideas to initially think about. Parks and Rec, strong. Oceanside Beach, replenishment, activation. That's important to our industry. It's important to our residents. So that was obviously a key top priority. And then as far as major attractions, good opportunities as it relates to Ocean Camp and looking at the opportunity to create a signature major annual event in the off-season that will drive some people into the city in the off-season. So looking at that, and that would be something fairly easy to do if we had the financing and the sponsorship. Next steps, we're in that data analysis and getting the summaries from that. And then next is the visioning workshop that we'll be doing in June with the steering committee. And then after that, we'll be working on the steps to do the plan development. And you guys survived. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Good job.
Hopefully you're as excited as we are to work on this.
So a couple of points. First off, you guys knocked it out. You're doing a great job. You did it during COVID, and this is great. Question is, this PowerPoint, is that going to be on your website? Can we all look at it and send that to people?
Yes, I can put it out. I'm happy to put it on the website. It is very high level. It's not like decisions. It's not. I am a little concerned that those kind of goals and priorities, it's really just kind of what rose to the top. Nothing's been decided. But
It's great stuff.
It's really fun to think about, but nothing's been decided.
Now, I do have a question for you, though, and this is a practical question. During the summertime, and if you're in front of the Seabird, you know how busy it is, and it's almost like pedestrians are always in that street, and they impede the flow. And what do you think, is that a problem that the traffic can't flow? Do you think, to help our tourism, do we need some kind of, herd the masses, so to speak?
That's come up a few times, and we do need to look at that and think about the ease of flow, because we want that ease of flow. We want people coming out and feeling like they can go welcome down into the downtown area and what that feels like. I know it's difficult for the traffic who's stuck in that, waiting for that flow. I'm not the expert in that, but it has come up a couple of times that we should probably look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie.
Yeah, great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
Thank you so much.
We'll go to our next discussion item, which is the Housing Annual Progress Report.
I have a
Leave Rob remoteless.
Get out of there.
Good evening, Chair and Planning Commissioners. I'm Rob Demahowski with the Planning Division, and as requested here to give you a brief update on the city's annual progress report. And per state law, the city is required to submit an annual progress report to the State Department of Housing and Community Development to report on its housing production as required by the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, or RHNA for short. And the City Council is also required to receive and file that report every year. And the city submits the report to HCD on April 1st of each year, and City Council generally considers it around the same time frame. And as mentioned, it tracks the city's progress in meeting its share of RHNA, and also tracks the implementation of various housing programs as required as part of the housing element. State law requires all cities within the region and throughout the state to account for its share of housing, and known as the RHNA. The San Diego County region, Oceanside, was assigned 5,443 units in various unit income categories. And as noted, a focus is on the lower income categories, with the very low, low, and moderate income categories. Any category above that is considered the above moderate, which often takes care of itself. And as noted on the bottom chart there, the city receives credit for the current cycle began in 2021 and goes to 2029. And as part of that, the city has to demonstrate it has sufficient capacity to account for its future housing growth over this cycle. And that is done through the housing sites inventory, and we get credit for projects that are in progress, in the pipeline, under review, or entitled beginning August or rather June 30th of 2020. And that amount equated to 2,456 units. So we have existing general plan land use and zoning that is residential to accommodate our capacity. And your commission recently considered the zone amendment to the mixed use allowance to actually increase the mixed use density that helps satisfy the capacity during this cycle. And going forward, this is our RENA progress under the current cycle beginning on June 30th of 2020. And during that year, a total of 223 permits were issued. And for tracking purposes, the annual progress report focuses on building permits that were issued. So the idea is that if a permit is issued, a building permit, it will likely be constructed. So in many cases, there are several pipeline projects or applications under review, but the city doesn't actually get credit for those units until the building permit is issued. So there's projects that have been in the works for some going back 10 years, and they're just coming online. So we'll have waves of permits here and there, and in some cases we'll have credit for those. And so in 2021, 498, and in last year there were 626 permits, and then it breaks down the income category those permits were issued in. During the current cycle, there's 28 permits in the very low income category, 34 in the low, 257 in the moderate category, and 1,030 in the above moderate income, equating to 1,347 units constructed to date. And with the remaining RENA, based on the 543, we still have 4,922 to go. And I'll go through the APR is a very data-heavy exercise, and there's several charts. The first page tracks the building permits submitted in the calendar year 2022, and this includes both entitlements and building permits. There's several ADUs and other building permits for single-family homes, as well as the projects that were submitted for entitlement. So this number equates to 3,211. And as shown on this chart, the proposed units by household, these are all building permits and entitlements that were either submitted or approved in the calendar year. And building permits issued, 626 for 2022. And during that year, 216 units were issued certificates of occupancy or final inspection to occupy those units. And for reference purposes, this goes back to the previous cycle, the 2013 through 2020 cycle, identifying 2013 units were constructed, and it appears 300, just over 300 in the very low income category, 187 in the low income, 277 in the moderate category, and 1,239 units in the above moderate category. That concludes my information, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for? It is a lot of, like you said, it was data heavy. So, Sergio, did you have a comment or?
Chair Rosales, I just wanted to mention that we do have a speaker slip on this item. We actually had a speaker slip on the last item, conferred with the city attorney, and this being that it's an agendized item, the public has the opportunity to also make comments on this. So at the appropriate time, you may call this speaker up.
For this item, not the previous one.
I'm not sure how we would work the previous one in. I suppose we could allow them, after this item's concluded, we could allow them to speak on it. I believe they're still here in the audience, but.
Same speaker?
I believe they're different speakers, sir.
Okay, go ahead and call them.
My apologies for my ignorance in that discussion item, speaker slip protocol. For item 6, it was going to be Michelle Sear. Thank you. And then for item number 7, it'll be Ellen Bartlett.
So if we could take the speaker for item 7, and once we conclude this, maybe we could go back to the speaker on item 6, might be most appropriate at this time.
Let's do Ellen first.
My apologies. Ellen, if you'd please come forward.
Are we, since we've been given, not direction, but the idea that we could do, it is a public, or it is a agendized item, am I also opening up the floor to those that didn't submit slips, or treat it like a public hearing?
The rule is just that the members of the public are allowed to comment and attend the meeting and speak on any items on the agenda.
Okay.
So it's not the same as a public hearing, though. These are not public hearing items, so you don't close the public hearing or open the public hearing. But.
Okay. Go ahead, Ellen.
Oh, can I get this enlarged before I begin?
Certainly.
Thank you. A little bit more. Oh, that'll be good. Thank you. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I'm representing my name's Ellen Bartlett. I'm representing Preserve Calavera. And first of all, I'd like to thank the Commission for asking for the status report and also thank the staff for providing it so quickly. The state of California has mandated that cities, towns, and counties must plan for the housing needs of our residents, regardless of their income. Local governments play a vital role in developing affordable housing. Unfortunately, Oceanside will be unable to even come close to meeting its housing needs if we continue on our current path. The number of units built for moderate and above is already far outpacing the low and very low units. Unless very considerable effort is made by the city to rectify this and change our pathway, we will not come close to meeting our affordable housing needs. If you look at the numbers displayed on this, and I took the numbers that were shown earlier in the table, and I put them into percentages, you can actually see the significance.
Ellen, can you go back to the mic so we can get you? Oh, yeah.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. You can see that for the very low, it's 23% that we need, and we only have 2%. And for the low, it's 13%, and we only have 3%. But on the other end, we need 47% above moderate, and we have 76%. If we keep going, this clearly shows the disparity more clearly. And we can see the percentages we have so far in the cycle. We have a long way to go. All of our residents must have access to housing and thereby socioeconomic equity. We must improve the balance between the number of low-wage jobs and the number of housing units affordable to low-wage workers. We must also weigh the environmental costs. Insufficient housing in job-centered areas hinders the state's environmental quality and runs counter to the state's environmental goals. In particular, when people seeking affordable housing are forced to drive longer distance to work, an increased amount of greenhouse gases and other pollutants is released and puts in jeopardy the achievement of the state's climate goal. The city needs to do better. We are asking that you review every housing project and you consider the following. Does this move us closer to meeting our RHNA goals, or is this project just exacerbating the problem of providing enough low-income housing for all those who need it? Everyone deserves to have a safe and affordable place to live. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Rosales, Joan Bachman also turned in a slip for item number 7.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Joan.
Yes, Commissioners, glad to hear the report. And yeah, I second what Ellen is talking about. As you know, I'm very favorable toward the Smart and Sustainable Corridors Plan, which I think is brilliant, but also the nodes and avenues where there's housing on the ground on our major streets. It's not always mixed use. That just makes strip malls. So some that were just housing on a major street might actually produce housing on a major street. But I wanted to bring up something else that I never hear mentioned, and that is ghost homes. Where we live, we're in downtown here. When ADUs came up, our neighbors laughed. We've always had ADUs. Now they're legal. They're all around us. Every garage has been converted in our neighborhood, always has been. We don't like short-term rentals because we don't know who's there and there's no sense of community and you can't talk about issues and why bother even saying hi? So Leslie's not here to hear me say that, but really, they just use us. We're not hotel staff. So we really don't want STRs. But what I don't hear ever mentioned is ghost homes. From my house to the west is a ghost home. The owner lives in Las Vegas. He comes back, goes back and forth. Next to him, that owner lives in Manhattan Beach. He comes back, he goes back and forth, okay? 2 homes, 99% of the time are vacant. Across the street, we have people who, bless them, they came into money and did great things for actually pushing electric cars forward, and that's wonderful. But they bought a couple houses. They don't live there. They live in the Bay Area. This is just my street, okay? So I've got SDRs, not residents living in them. We've got ghost homes. And I would really like the city to count the number of ghost homes. Because when our son was at MIT, we went to hear lectures. We went to all the lectures we could. One of them was a guy in China who put together a whole team, and they went and interviewed people, found out who they were, learned who their family members were, all this stuff, and found 50 million ghost homes. These are not the cities they built that no one ever moved into. These were places in major cities and on the countryside and all over where people owned it but just didn't live there, and no one else did either. It was perfectly habitable, but no one lived there. So I'm surrounded by at least 4 to 5 of these, so I can only imagine, and granted it's a coastal area, investors, et cetera, but we have seen so many homes just go vacant while they wait for the price to go up, and I think that's criminal. We don't have neighbors. We don't have people around us. We would rather get to know our neighbors. And so let's please start counting ghost homes. And it takes a concerted effort to get it right. So please do that. Thank you.
Chairman Rosales, that concludes item number 7. Speakers, would you like me to go to item number 6?
Please.
Ms. Michelle Sear, will you come forward? Thank you.
Hello again. Let's get you home. I'm Michelle Sear, concerned citizen of Oceanside and member of the Bike and Pedestrian Committee, which has been told that Visit Oceanside, the city, and Sandag have committed to fund the launch of the downtown shuttle this summer, which sort of addresses the question that was brought up about too much traffic down there. It's welcome news considering the traffic congestion during high peak tourist vacation times. I mostly avoid going downtown during weekends, Friday, Saturday nights because there's too much traffic. Residents of the downtown area also experience problems with the influx of cars, taking neighborhood parking spots during these times. There was a lot of community support and positive feedback from the hospitality industry for last year's pilot downtown shuttle. It moved passengers around quickly and efficiently and alleviated parking congestion. The pilot program ended in November 2022, but the relaunch of the shuttle service is only funded as a 2-year pilot. I believe a plan to make the downtown shuttle permanent should be a part of any sustainable plan. Please ask the city staff to make a plan for the shuttle to become a permanent service with sustainable funding. That would be great for downtown residents, the tourism industry, and the environment. It would have a significant impact on the cumulative miles driven in the city. An excellent avenue for sustainable funding the city should explore is the Oceanside Transit Center redevelopment project. The OTC is the premier transit hub of North County, and the redevelopment project would also benefit from the shuttle, so it's logical for the OTC project to fund part of it. The redevelopment will add over 500 apartments, offices, a hotel, restaurants, and other services to the OTC. The city already requires a transportation demand management, TDM, program for projects of this size. The OTC project could include funding for the shuttle in its TDM. A well-planned and managed shuttle service would also be a great opportunity to establish a sustainable solution to the first last mile challenge of transporting commuters to and from the OTC transit hub to their final destination. The OTC project could also serve as a catalyst for other downtown employers to support the shuttle and ensure that it's a permanent service. Please ask city staff to explore how projects like the OTC could help make a sustainable downtown shuttle a reality. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That concludes all of our slips.
Very nice, thank you. That concludes our agenda other than city planner and commissioner reports. I'll start, I'll keep it super brief because I know it's late. I think you're bringing the work plan to us fairly soon, Sergio?
Chairman Rosales, that's correct. We're scheduled to bring that forward to the Planning Commission at the meeting of May 8th.
Great. The only other thing I had was we had a discussion in our briefing last week about looking at perhaps resurrecting what took place a couple of times when I was on the commission really a long time ago, and that was some kind of interaction with the city council to talk about, commonalities, things coming up, just a good opportunity to, again, interface with the council. Not often, maybe once a year kind of thing. So Jay and I teed that up to Sergio's as an idea. So whenever you're ready, that'd be great.
So Chairman Rosales, we will engage city management, city manager's office to see how we could facilitate such a workshop to go over some of these common topics.
Cool, perfect, thank you. Vice Chair Morrissey.
I'll keep it brief too. At the last DAC meeting, the issue came up and traffic engineering, Tila was queried about, hey, what can we do about the pedestrians in front of the Seabird? And I don't know, can you just let her know that summer's coming and we'd like to hear if she came up with something. When she left the DAC meeting, she said she's going to look into that, so.
Vice Chair Morrissey, we certainly can follow up with the city traffic engineer. We have an opportunity perhaps to address it at the next DAC meeting, which is just this Wednesday. So we'll see if she has any time to contemplate it.
Okay.
And then if not, we can actually agendize it perhaps for the meeting in July.
Thank you.
Commissioner Balma.
I have nothing really to report other than a question to see if any city staff or anybody has actually engaged any of the property management people in the airport industrial park. I mean, we keep getting these information, and I don't want to respond anymore. I don't think it's me to respond. I think it's more someone from city staff or from the police or somebody. They keep asking, and it seems like, is it just a black hole or what?
Chairman Balma, we also received Commissioner Balma, we also received those emails, and we have direction from the city manager's office to allow Brother Bennett to continue working with the police department, and then we will bring a report back to this body, if not the first meeting in May, which I think the agenda's two-pack might be the second meeting in May. That would have given an opportunity for the police department to work with Brother Benno's to implement the changes that they both agreed upon, and then we can report back to this body on how that's going.
Have you engaged those, is the police department or someone engaging those the business managers of that park? Is they're asking for someone to meet with them? No?
So I've been asked to just allow the process to run its course, and we'll engage them at the appropriate time.
So we'll keep it.
Thank you. Commissioner Anthony, this is the time where if you want to report anything out or talk about a pet project you're working on, this is your opportunity to report out, if you will. If you have nothing, you say no report.
No report.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Dodds.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Commissioner Simons.
Nothing to report.
And Commissioner Malik.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. City Planner, wrap it up for us.
Thank you, Chair Rosales, members of the Planning Commission. Really quickly, at the next meeting on May 8th, we have scheduled a few projects, one of them being a project known as Padel, California. This is an interesting project. It's in the 200 block of South Coast Highway. Padel is a racket sport that combines like tennis and racquetball and a number of other things. My understanding is this would only be the second such facility in all of San Diego County, so kind of interesting. It might be like the next pickleball or something. We don't know. We also have the farm worker housing project that we previously described to this body. Will be coming forward on May 8th. We have a project known as the Vista Way Senior Housing. It's known as senior housing because it's going to be age-restricted, for sale, single-family homes. It's a project consists of a track map, a development plan, and a density bonus application. We also bring to this body that the Planning Commission work plan for the next 2 fiscal years. And finally, the city engineer will be bringing the CIP budget proposed for the next fiscal year to that meeting for a finding of general plan consistency. Moving on to the city council, we have scheduled on May 17th a project known as 901 Peerview Way. It's a mixed-use project consisting of 64 housing units and I'm not sure how many thousand square feet. 3,500 square feet of commercial retail in the downtown district. And there'll also be the CUP, that regulated use CUP that this body considered for the smoke shop on Oceanside Boulevard will also go forward to the Planning Commission, or to the City Council on that date. And finally, just to report back to this body, last meeting you approved the Madera Melrose project. Unfortunately, that project got approved by the SAFER group, so we're going to schedule that for the City Council here in the near future, hopefully before the July break. That's all I have to report
Serge, you have
today.
a question on the Vista Way. What part, where location is that?
Sure, Commissioner Malik. That's on Vista Way, sort of east of El Camino Real. I think it's between Buena Hills Drive, and and I think the other street is North Place. So
Okay.
part of kind of in the eastern part of town, just north of the 78.
Got you, thanks.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.